Hey book lovers, and welcome to my channel. My name is Rebecca, and today we are doing my November wrap-up. So for the month of November I read 5 books. 4 of them were novels and one of them was a manga volume. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that today and my thoughts on them. This will be non-spoilery, so you don't have to worry. And I thought, yeah, I'd just give you my thoughts on them, what I rated them, and how my month was overall in terms of my reading. So the first book that I read in the month of November that I actually wanted to read in October but didn't have time for was The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I really enjoyed this book. You can really sense a lot of the inspiration in the horror genre that comes from this book. I think that the aspects of the haunting that were revealed were very subtle and as such powerful. Even for someone who's read a lot of horror like I have, there were moments that surprised me that I wasn't expecting. So I thought that that was good for me because I do like being surprised when I read. I had some problems with the writing style, which I think honestly are just a result of it being written in, I think it was published in the 50s. So the dialogue was a bit awkward by today's standards, and some of the other aspects of the writing were a bit unnatural to me. But there were also some very beautiful moments in the writing that I think if you go and check out my first ever reading vlog, I included a quote that I really, really loved from it. So I'll link it down below or put a tag up or whatever. And I ended up giving that 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. This one I didn't actually start in November. I started it months ago, but then my anxiety kicked into overdrive and I stopped reading and I was basically just playing video games all the time. But I finally got back into it and finished this one, and I'm really glad that I did. I loved the characters. I like watching Vin grow up and adapt to the world that she's thrown into. I like watching Kelsia, who is an older character, still be able to develop and learn thanks to Vin's influence on him. It was just a great dynamic. The magic system was really unique and very engrossing, and I cannot wait to keep going with that. I do actually have the next book, The Will of Ascension, and anyone who's watched my videos will see that I've actually started it, but it's been triggering my anxiety. I'm not entirely sure why, maybe because of the state I was in when I started reading the series initially. So I've put it aside for now, but I do intend on getting back to it once my mood stabilizes a bit. Anyway, I gave The Final Empire a 5 out of 5. Really loved it. The next book that I read is actually the manga, and that's Yotsuba Volume 14 by Kiyohiko Azuma. I knew I'd love it because I've loved every single volume of Yotsuba. I've been reading this series for years. It's still coming out very, very sporadically. I think the last one came out last year sometime. And I saw this was up for pre-order recently, and it came out on the 14th of November from recollection, so I pre-ordered it and read it as soon as I had it available. Though, as of the last time I checked, it still doesn't have a cover. I don't know if that the cover will be added to my Kindle at some point or not, or if I'm just going to have to deal with it without having a cover. But either way, I absolutely loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. As per usual, Yotsuba's up to all sorts of weird child shenanigans. She gets to go to Tokyo for the first time. She gets to make jewelry, all that sort of thing, and I really loved it. It was a great read. The next book that I read was My Name Is Not Midnight by J.P. Readman. This was aimed at younger readers, I believe, so I'm not exactly the target audience for it, which might explain some of the issues that I had with it. My biggest issue was the amount of spelling, grammar, and consistency mistakes within the story. Spelling and grammar mistakes are quite self-explanatory. Consistency-wise, place names changed around a bit. Spellings of particular words sometimes were different. There were capitalizations for a word in one moment and then not in another, and it was a bit distracting. But also the actual plot itself felt a bit like a slog. Like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. A lot of Esma, the main character, getting into trouble, running away from the trouble, getting into trouble, running away from the trouble. It felt like a giant chase scene with very little room to breathe. So by the time I got toward the end of the book, I was really looking forward to it being over. And then the ending ended up being somewhat anticlimactic for me. But as I said, I'm not the target audience, so maybe if I were a younger reader at the time of reading it, Esma was... Well, here's one of the consistency issues. It's mentioned that she's either 13 or 14 in the story, but in the blurb it says she's 12. So I don't know which she is, but clearly she's a younger character, so maybe younger readers would be able to connect with her a lot more than I did. And I ended up giving that one a 3 out of 5. I didn't hate it, it just wasn't great to me. And the last book that I read this month that I've actually just finished reading is Cataclysm by James A. Hunter. That's the first book in the Viridian Gate Online lit RPG series. And I absolutely loved it. It was really fun, fast-paced, quick read for me. It was only a few days. I enjoyed every moment of it. I wasn't sitting there hoping it was going to end, which I've noticed a lot of books that I've read lately have been that way. I felt very familiar with the world, being somebody who plays a lot of RPGs in real life, and it straddled the line between being enough like an RPG that you're excited by reading it, and not so much like an RPG that you actually just decide you want to put down the book and play. That's actually happened to me with an anime before, Tears to Tiara. It was sort of RPG-esque, but it was kind of boring, and it just made my husband and I want to actually play a game, so we abandoned the series and just put a game on to play together. So this book straddled the line really well there, I think, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. I'm also really excited because I've read books kind of like this before, but I didn't realize that there was actually an entire genre dedicated to RPGs, like I said, lit RPGs. I had no idea that was an entire genre. I found a society on Facebook that I've sent a request to join, and I'm looking forward to reading more of this series and dipping my toes into the genre a little bit more as well. I'm very excited by that. And I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I would absolutely recommend it if you are into RPGs, lit RPGs, fantasy even, and if you like Sword Art Online, you might like this one as well. It's got a similar premise. So they are all the books that I read this month. I read 5 books in November. The highest rating I gave was a 5 out of 5, which I actually gave to 3 of them. I know it sounds like I'm not overly critical when I say that, but I really did enjoy those books, and I feel that they deserve the 5 stars. The lowest rating I gave was a 3 out of 5 stars because the book wasn't great, but I didn't absolutely hate it. So it was an average book, so I put it at a 3 out of 5. That's how I go. 5 out of 5 was fantastic, and I absolutely loved it. 4 out of 5 was it was really good. 3 out of 5 was it was good. 2 out of 5 was I didn't like it that much, and a 1 out of 5 is awful. And I did end up DNFing a book this month as well. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head now because I didn't think to include it in this video. But the main reason that I DNF'd it is actually because it was causing issues on my e-reader. It was making my e-reader freeze up. I had to keep turning it off, and whenever I tried to highlight a passage, I couldn't highlight the main character's the main character's name for whatever reason, and it would take like 5 seconds for the highlight options. You know how you get like note, share, etc. It took like 5 seconds for those options to pop up, and turning the pages, it took time. Like my e-reader just went haywire, so I decided to DNF it rather than risk my e-reader. But of the few pages that I did read, I noticed that there was some awkwardness in the writing, there were some mistakes, and I didn't feel like I was actually going to enjoy the book that much anyway. So that is the month of November in regards to reading for me. I hope that you had a spectacular month with your own reading, and I will see you tomorrow for my December TBR, which I still haven't quite decided on. Good job, me. Alright, so thank you for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe if you are interested in seeing more content. Let me know how your month of reading was for November, what you're planning on reading in December, anything life related at all. It can be absolutely anything. Comment below and I will get back to you. And thank you so much for watching and for all your support.